In this video, I'm going to give you my review of the new Wilson Ultra 100 V4. Now, I don't have the racket with me, but the Wilson Ultra is a very near and dear racket to my heart because this is the Wilson Ultra V1. This was my very first adult racket when I was playing high school tennis as a freshman, so the Ultra's always been very near and dear to me. So when I got the chance to try this new version with the V4, I was ecstatic and excited because it's always been around and I do enjoy this racket. Now, the big thing about the Ultra line is that this racket is going to be a very helpful racket, especially for beginners to intermediate level players. You not only have the 100 head size, which is a little bit bigger, a little bit more help with spin, a little bit more help with power, and just going to be a little bit more forgiving compared to smaller head sizes. But you also have the string pattern being a 16 by 19, which when combined with the 100 head size, just going to be very easy to use, very easy to just get going into tennis with. It is going to help generate, like I said, even more access to spin because of the 100 head size and the 16 by 19, but it's not going to be extremely overbearing just because it's designed to be a little bit more helpful to you as the player, especially if you are just starting out. Now, the Ultra 100 V4, this does have a 10.6 ounce or 300 gram unstrung weight, as well as an 11.2 ounce or a 315 to 318 gram strung weight. So this version that I tried, this one is a little bit of the heavier version. This is typically the standard weight for a fully grown male player, whereas the Ultra does also come in the 100L and the 100UL, which are the lighter weight versions if you want something that's not going to be as heavy or you've never used a weight that's up to this high, especially with the string inside of it. So it is a pretty good all-around type of racket to where you can just figure out what weight works best for you and go from there. Now, the big thing where the Wilson Ultra 100 starts to get a lot of people, and they're just like, why would I ever want to touch that thing, is because of this thing right here called the stiffness rating. Now, stiffness rating on this racket is going to be a 70. If you don't know what that means, it essentially means that because this racket is very helpful with power, it's also tending to be a little bit hard on the arm. Now, I say a little bit just as a easy way of saying that this racket will cause quite a bit of shock and vibration to come back into you. So if you are someone who's prone to tennis elbow, you probably should stick away from the Ultra just to be as preventative as possible. Some people can get away with it depending on the string that they use and their technique. However, maybe just best to avoid it if you don't want to run the risk of this happening. Now, the type of racket, because you do have this 70 stiffness rating and you have the 100 square inch head size, the 16 by 19 string pattern, as well as a few other specs that I don't have mentioned here, but one of them being the beam width for how thick the actual racket is, this is going to be a power racket. Now, with this being a power racket, that is one of the big reasons why I say it's very helpful, especially for younger players or just people who are beginning into the sport, especially if they've never had an arm issue or any kind of like injury before, like shoulder surgery, wrist injury, or anything like that. That's where I think this racket can really shine. Not only did it help me when I was learning and growing as a tennis player who'd only been playing for a very short amount of time, but it is just a good way to get into the sport, figure out what you can do, have the racket help you a little bit as you're learning how to actually hit the ball, as you're learning to actually put spin onto the ball, and anything else you may want help with. And then finally, down here, you can compare this to the Babolat Pure Drive. I know my marker's starting to die, but we shall get through. The Babolat Pure Drive, and then you can also say the E-Zone from Yonex, which is the 100. And if you want to throw one more in there, you could go with the Solinco Blackout 300 gram. Those are all very similar power rackets. The Pure Drive and the actual Wilson Ultra 100, they're kind of sister rackets. So if you are wanting to try a few out to demo just to see if these styles even work for you, definitely be sure to try them out first to make sure that the 70 stiffness rating is not going to hurt your arm, as well as just to see if these specs work for you. Now, that's just a talk about what the actual specs do. Now let's see what it actually looks like on the court. Let's go. All right, so we have the Wilson Ultra 100 V4 out on the court, and like I said, this is a power racket. So if you have been struggling to gain power, or you're just starting out and you're wanting a racket that's going to be very helpful to you in all areas of the court, this is one that you may want to look into, especially to demo. As you can see, the big thing I noticed here when I was playing, whether it be with this rally in particular, because of how much volleying and how quickly we're moving, even though this is a 100 head size, it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit tougher to move around. It is going to be very stable. And that's one of the biggest things about the Wilson Ultra 100 V4 is that whether you're at the net, whether you're from the baseline, or you're just anywhere on the court, this racket is going to be very easy for you to actually just swing through the ball, get easy power, and have the racket help you. There's not much that this racket is going to really lack except for a little bit of more control. But like I said, you can sometimes change that with the string that you're using. However, overall, you get good spin. You do get good easy power. You can change direction very easily with this racket, whether you're trying to go from your cross court forehand to right on the other side of your cross court backhand. You can easily change up the direction, go into a slice, or just even go into a drop shot just to bring your opponent in. I don't know what that was. And just lob even, just like I just did right there, from everywhere around the court. All right, so we just got back from the court, and that's my review of the Wilson Ultra 100. Like I said in the beginning, this racket is very special to me. It will always have a place in my heart because it was essentially my first adult racket that I had for myself as I was learning to play. And I think that is a great racket for beginners to intermediate level players to actually just get into the game with and just figure out what their personal style is as they continue to develop it. As you continue to play, if you do start with this as a beginner, you can use this more and more and more just because you can adjust the string, you can adjust the tension. However, I feel like the Ultra really fits more as a starting out racket and just kind of like getting your baseline as a player, figuring out your game style or starting to develop that, and then eventually moving on into a different racket that may suit your game style at that time, whether you want more help with spin, you want more help with control, you want a racket that's a little bit easier on your arm, or anything else like that. So, with that being said, that's my review of the Wilson Ultra 100. If you liked the video, leave a like on it. Comment down below any questions you have about the Wilson Ultra, or if you've played with one, let me know what you thought about it, whether it be V1 like I have, or V4 like I reviewed here today, 2, 3, whatever. Let me know what you thought about it. As well as subscribe to the channel so we can grow the channel, get the information out there from the people that have it to the people that need it. As well as we just need to enjoy the game of tennis so much more without having to worry about injury from our gear. So, with that being said, as always, take care.